Welcome to the world of IP addressing. Welcome to CCNA 200-301, Implementing and Administering Cisco Solutions, Chapter number 21, Network Layer. In this chapter, we will discuss about the network layer of the OSI model. We will discuss about the IP address, and finally we will discuss about the network layer functions.
Welcome to iRush Academy, an unlimited learning platform to enhance your skills. Subscribe to the channel for more videos.
So what is the network layer and what is the functions of network layer? Network layer in the OSI model or in TCP IP is a layer that manage the networking part of the network communication. So in the screen you can see left side the OSI model and right side the TCP IP model. In OSI model there is a layer called network layer, and the equivalent layer in TCP IP it is called internet layer. Basically the functions of both layer are same. In OSI model it is called network layer, and in TCP IP model it's called the internet layer. This is the layer of logical addressing. This is the layer where a network engineer provides the logical address or the IP address to the devices in that network. Now let's go back to our previous scenario. In that scenario, I wanted to buy a music system and I went to an electronic shop. So I was discussing about the network communication that passing through the different layers of the OSI model. Here, the application layer manages the communication between the application and the network. And then the traffic is going to the presentation layer. The presentation layer convert the data into a general format so that the both source and destination devices can understand. And then it go to the session layer where the session layer start and end the session of the network communication. Then it is going to the transport layer. The transport layer select the protocol whether it is TCP or UDP. If it is reliable communication, then it choose TCP. If it is non-reliable communication, then it is choose the UDP. And also the transport layer choose the source and destination port so that the application is separated from the other services running at both source and destination devices. Then it is going to the network layer. So what is happening in the network layer? Network layer manage the logical addressing of the network. This is where we put the IP address to the devices in that network. So this is one of the layer that a network engineer has the complete control over it. So that means we are the one who decide the IP address to the network devices. Which IP address need to provide to the devices, which subnet mask we need to use, which gateway we need to assign. The IP address should be static or it should be delivered by the DHCP. All of this kind of decision is taken by the network engineer, that means you and me. So we can choose a class A IP address, class B IP address or class C IP address or a customized IP address as per our requirement. Now let's come back to the network diagram of our electronic shop. So this is the electronic shop I went to purchase a music theater system. So let's see what is their network circuit contain. As you can in the screen, there are multiple networks available. This is the electronic shop network which contain the client PC and the cash register. Then we have the server network. This server network may be exist in the same showroom or the nearest building, or even it is hosted outside the country. From the network diagram you can see that the showroom network and the server network are not directly connected. They connected by using multiple routers in between. So here we have another network in between the router R1 and R2. One more network in between the router R2 and R3. So that means there are two networks available in between the showroom network and the server network. Whatever the data transferring from the showroom network to the server network, all the data must be travel through the other network, because there is no direct connectivity in between the showroom network and the server network. Do you know how the network devices are identified in a network? By using the IP address. So every network device in a network, they should have a logical address or IP address to identify them. This IP address is using for the communication because the sender must know where this traffic need to be sent. And they don't call it router 1, router 2 and router 3 or the server. Instead, they use the IP address to send the traffic. So now let's give the IP address to the network devices in this network. So first of all, we have the showroom network, which I can provide a network 10.1.1.0/24. Here the 10.1.1.0 is the network ID and 24 is the subnet mask. From the 24, we can say that this is a class C IP address. We will talk about the multiple classes of IP address later. So as I said, I provided the IP address 10.1.1.0/24 to the showroom network. Now we need to provide a specific IP address for the client PC, which is connected to the cache register. So I am giving 10.1.1.50/24 for that device. Now we can see there is a network exists between the router R1 and R2. So I am assigning the IP address 10.1.2.0/24 to that network. Then there is another network in between the router R2 and R3. So I am giving 10.1.3.0/24 to that network. Now we have the server network. For the server network, I am giving 10.1.50.0/24. And now we have the server. One IP address should specify to the server. So for the server, I am giving 10.1.50.100/24. So in this communication, the major devices are the client PC and the server. And for the client PC, I have given 10.1.1.50, and for the server, I have given 10.1.50.100. So first of all, who is designing this IP address? Like which IP address I need to give to this network, which IP address I need to assign to this device? That is the network engineer, you and me. So we are the one who designed the IP address and the network ID, subnet mask, default gateway, everything. So the network engineers have the complete control over the IP address, over the network layer of the OSI model, because they are the one who design and assign the IP address. Now let's see the working principle of this network, how it's working. If you remember, I came to the electronic shop to purchase a home theater system. So to sell that home theater system to any customer, the sales staff, they must generate an invoice. They must mark the item is going to sell to someone. For that, they have one application which is installed in this client machine. So that sales application help them to generate the sales report, generate the invoices, etc. So the sales staff is going to make the sales entry in that PC. We all know it generated data, and that data must be sent to the server, because the server is the one who receives the sales request and generate the invoices and write the database, etc. So now here we know the data is ready at the client PC. Let me put the data at the bottom of the screen. Yes, the data is ready at the client PC. Now what is next? This data, it must send to the server. So here we need to explain the process using the OSI model. As we know, there are 7 layers for the OSI model. Now let's see how the data is transferring and how each layer of OSI model involved in this process. First of all, the application layer. The purpose of application layer is help the communication between the application and the network. We know the PC contains the sales software and it needs to send the data to the server. So how this data need to be traveled? The data need to be traveled through the network. So the software need to know the data must be traveled through the network. So the application layer is the one who helps this communication in between the software and the network. It is acting as an agent between the application and the network. Now let's go to the presentation layer. So what is the function of presentation layer? The presentation layer convert the data into a generic format so that the destination server can understand the data. It also encrypt the data and decrypt the data. So why do we need to encrypt the data? We are going to send some critical information. So nobody in the network should steal it and know what is the information inside it. So that's why we need to encrypt the data. Encryption means it is converting the data into a secret format, and only the destination server can decrypt the data and understand what is the content. So the presentation layer helps to do that thing. Now let's go to the session layer. So what is the function of session layer? The session layer function is to start and end a session. So what is this session? Let's see, the PC want to send some information to the server. So it send the data to the server. So the process of sending the data from the PC to the server is considered as a session. PC initialize the data transfer and server receive it. And maybe the server send a reply back to the PC. So this is what we call a session, and the session layer is responsible to start and end the session. Now let's go to the transport layer. What is the function of transport layer? Transport layer decides the transport protocol for the data communication. We know the data is transferring from one source to the destination, and how this data transfer. We must use some kind of network protocol for this data transfer. So depends on our requirement, there are multiple protocols available in the transport layer. We need to use that according to our requirement. For example, if you want to send the data through a reliable method, then you should choose TCP. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol. It is a reliable protocol. But if you want to send the non-reliable data, such as the voice over IP or video streaming, then we should use UDP. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. And there are many network protocol available in the transport layer, but majority of the network communication depends on the TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. So the transport layer decides the network protocol for the data communication. And there is one more function, happening at transport protocol, that is called the network port. Why we want to use the network port for the data communication? So this client PC, there may be a lot of session is happening that PC. There may be a lot of services running. And same can happen with the server also. Server may be functioning as a web server or database server or FTP server, etc. So how the data know I am sending the communication related to one service, or how the PC know I am going to send the communication belongs to one service? By using the network port. So network port is separate the communication based on the service, so that it can easily understand the data is coming from this service and data is going to that service. So it is separated from the other service which is running in the same machine. So for each send and receive, we must use the feature called network port. So for each data transfer, there is a source port and the destination port to identify the service. So here we can add the destination port and source port into our data. We have considered the destination port as 443 and source port as 5000. Now let's go to the network layer. What is the function of network layer? This is our main subject in this chapter. The network layer manages the logical addressing or IP addressing of the network devices. For each send and receive, the network must know the traffic is coming from where and traffic is going to where. For that, there must be specified the source IP address and the destination IP address. So in our case, the client PC is sending the data. So it is the source device and its IP address 10.1150. And the destination device is the server. Its IP address is 10.1.50.100. So here we have added the destination IP as 10.1.50.100 and the source IP as 10.1.1.50. So when the data is transferring from the client machine to the server, first of all, it is looking the source and destination IP and understand from where this data is coming and where it is going. If the destination IP stays in the same network, then it send the traffic immediately to that. But if the destination IP is outside the network, then it need to find a way to reach to that network. This is what we call routing. And along with the IP address, there is also mentioned the source and destination port. Once the destination IP is identified by the network, then it is looking to the destination port and send the traffic to that port only. So the server can understand it receive a data belongs to a specific service. For example, if the server designed to receive the sales order at port 443, then when it receive a data to 443, it can understand the data is going to that specific application. So this is what happening when the data transfer through a network. This is what happening in the network layer. Now let's talk about the network layer functions. Point number 1, logical addressing. The network layer assigns logical addresses to the devices. It is also called the IP addresses. These addresses are used to uniquely identify devices on the network. Point number 2, routing. The network layer helps to move the traffic from one network to another different network by calculating the best path. Point number 3, packet forwarding. The network layer is responsible for forwarding data packet from one network node to the next along the path to the destination. Point number 4, fragmentation and reassembly. The network layer may perform packet fragmentation when the data to be transmitted exceed the maximum transmission unit of a network segment. This is also called MTU. It also handles reassembling fragmented packet at the destination. Point number 5, error handling. Detecting and handling errors that may occur during transmission, such as packet loss, corruption, or duplication, are also part of the network layer's responsibility. This can involve implementing error detection mechanism like checksums. Point number 6. Congestion control. The network layer may implement congestion control mechanism to manage traffic flow, avoid network congestion, and optimize network performance. Point number 7. Quality of service, which is also called QoS. In some cases, the network layer can prioritize certain types of traffic, example voice or video streams, by implementing QoS policies to ensure a certain level of performance for critical applications. Point number 8. Tunneling and encapsulation. The network layer supports tunneling and encapsulation techniques where data from one protocol is encapsulated within another protocol for transmission across diverse networks. So that's for now. So in this chapter, we have discussed about the network layer of OSI model. We have discussed about the IP address. And finally, we have discussed about the network layer functions. Thank you for watching and subscribe to the channel for more videos.